Another weekend swimming with my silly looking ear protection mask. In this case I've come to the Harrison River at Kilby. I wanted to dive the pilings on the other side of the river, but there's a fair bit of boat traffic and one had to be careful about crossing the river. So I swam upstream in the river in the shallows where there wasn't any boat traffic and looked for a good spot to head across. And I'd purposely worn my 3mm red wetsuit so that I'd be highly visible. And I went over on my back so that I could keep my eyes peeled for any approaching boats. On the riverside of the pilings there was quite a bit of current and not a lot of opportunity to do much snorkeling there. So I just drifted down to the end of the pilings and then came up the other side. Once I was on the shoreward side of the pilings and had swum up current a bit, the current dropped off and then it was pretty easy to snorkel there. On the pilings there were some of the ubiquitous freshwater sponge. And you can see a couple of suckers hanging about at the bottom of the pilings. And this is a school of three-spined sticklebacks, a very common freshwater species. They're also found in salt water, and I've recently learned that some of them are even anadromous, like salmon. They'll live in the salt water and then spawn in the fresh water, although they're probably not leaping too many waterfalls. I think this plant might be Elodea, or common name Canadian pondweed. It was growing incredibly thickly, and in some spots I think it was maybe 3 meters high. And swimming in amongst the vegetation there was lots of small fish. I think there are probably peamouth chub and northern pike minnow, as well as Redside shiners. This sequence may look like I'm underwater, but in fact I'm on the surface, and I just lowered my camera down on my selfie stick and tried to orient it in order to capture the fish swimming in amongst the plants. And here you can see a school of Redside shiners. They don't look particularly red on their sides. I think that's something that happens when they're mating. Interestingly, I couldn't approach these guys from downstream, but from upstream they were pretty calm about me being there. Eventually I wandered along the riverside of the pilings and found a good spot to cross back over to my exit point. I'd hoped to see some sturgeon here, but I didn't see any. I've actually dove the spot I don't know how many times, a dozen times, and I always wanted to see sturgeon, and I have never actually seen a sturgeon here. Anyways, it was quite a lovely snorkel, even without sturgeon.